This is just to inform you that we'll be recording this session, and all the information that we'll be sharing will be recorded. We'll make a small information snippets out of it, and we'll be posting online if the information is something which we feel useful for everyone. Hi everyone, we'll start the session. My name is Piyush. I'll introduce myself first. My name is Piyush. I work with Farnek in sustainability as a sustainability consultant. And I'm also a team member who's working behind Emirates Carbon. What is Emirates Carbon is something we'll discuss as we progress on this webinar. Uh, but we'll talk about the agenda, what what we are fortunate about is all of us living in UAE. People who joined us from UAE. We are very fortunate to be part of having such an impactful climate action event like COP28 happening so close to our home. It's such a and people who have been pioneer in sustainability industry knows how impactful this would be for businesses, SMEs, even the SMEs, hotels, different organizations. It will create an impact because it's happening in UAE, and UAE will be looking to take initiatives in sustainability. What does sustainability or COP28 mean for you, and how you can make the best use of this opportunity? We will discuss that in the webinar today. We have with us two experts from their industry. We have with us Mr. Samuel. Just a second. Yeah, Mr. Samuel, he is head of environmental group at SBC. He has over 14 years of experience in global FMG industry. He believes in aligning environmental impact, impact and business together. He founded Swiss Eco Group as well in UAE, championing sustainability and helping partnering with businesses to create sustainable impact. He's leading Be Water for a year now, and he has saved over 4 million plastic bottles in 2023. cutting down over 2,000 tons of CO2 annually. He's a true eco-visionary, and he's making waves in corporate sustainability, and he's giving us a company with Ms. Muna. She is our head of environmental and energy and sustainability. She has over 15 years of experience, and she's driving organizations even in Farnek towards sustainable development. She has a proven track record in not just doing sustainability as a business, but also reaching it to its targets, to its goals. And she's been working very closely with Expo City over the past 6 months, and she is has a lot of insight in COP28, so she'll be able to guide us through very well. We'll hand it over to Mr. Samuel to start with the introduction of what Swiss Business Council is and the vision they have for environment, and and Mr. Sam would like to discuss. Another thing I want to tell everyone, please, we have muted everyone. If you have questions, please raise your hand or put it on the chat below. I'll be able to take them later on with Ms. Muna. Thank you, and over to you, Mr. Sam.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Give me 1 second to share my screen. Hopefully now you can see it. Please confirm that you can see. Once you can see it.
Yes, sir, we can see your screen.
Amazing, thank you. So good morning, everyone. My name is Samuel. Thank you for the very kind introduction, Piyush. And I'm not going to take too long of your time. I just want to take 3 minutes, no more, to introduce you to the Swiss Business Council and more specifically to the environmental group. So what is the Swiss Business Council? It's a non-profit organization which has been founded in 1996. We have the objective of being a platform of exchange and networking to develop synergies between business and social relation between the UAE and Switzerland. We have around 400 members in the Swiss Business Council, and we organize around 80 thank you. So we organize around 80 events a year, including monthly afterworks drinks where non-members are also more than welcome. So happy to join us at that moment. We have different working groups to tackle focus topics. For example, we have the health group, we have the financial group, we have the digital or blockchain, but mostly today talking about the environmental group. So I have the chance to be ahead of the environmental group. We are 12 passionate members who want to make an impact. We are driven by the Net Zero Strategy 2050, and of course this is 2050, so short term COP28. Again, here we are connectors. We are putting stakeholders into relation, and we are making the bridge to close discussion and to develop business between the Swiss Embassy, the Swiss Business Hub, different business councils. Today, we are very happy to share this webinar with Farnek, a key and long-term partner of the Swiss Business Council, who will lead us through the different COP28 initiative. So I hand over to Muna here and Piyush. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Allow me to share the presentation. And I kindly request everyone to please put your mics on mute. It's disturbing the speaker, so please allow us could put your mics on mute. Just check everyone. Your camera and mic cameras can be on. Just put your mics on mute, please, everyone. Yeah.
Hello.
You want to share the screen? Okay.
Hello, everyone. I hope that I hope that you're ready for a short 30 minutes of a quick overview of COP28. First, please allow me to thank you for coming and sparing the time to be with us today. And also to thank, first of all, the Swiss Business School for being a partner and for actually planning and delivering this together. The main reason why we have decided to actually try to kind of bring a bit of a knowledge, because we understand how difficult it is to navigate through what's happening around us. yes, I agree, Piyush, we are blessed with the fact that COP28 is happening in the UAE this year. But I think the amount of information that's available is a bit overwhelming. There are big expectations, there are big announcements to be made, but it's really important to understand where we are today, what's happening around us, and as a business, how this is going to impact us as a business. How can we have an active part and engagement as well within the whole COP28 and the climate action? So moving on, I don't want to take a lot of time on into the introductions from my side. We'll just cover 4 main things as COP28 overview and expectations, national commitments, especially from the UAE and the UAE net zero strategy, what's the role of your businesses, and what we do as Farnek as part of our initiatives. Now, before we start, I always like to actually engage with the attendees. So if you would kindly just share a bit about you, your name, function, organization, 1 word about you and why you're here, why you care about sustainability, and then why you have decided to be part of this webinar. Let's try to make it as engaging as possible, just to make sure that whatever information we're sharing is something that's resonating with you, and you also kind of understand where to take it, and we can actually kind of align with what we want to bring in terms of information with you. So in the chat, I think if you can just please kindly share your name, organization, function, 1 word about you, and why you're here today. Yeah, I still don't see anything on the chat, so I hope it's not a difficult ask. Okay, I should have maybe warned you that this is not going to be just a lesson kind of thing webinar. You'll have to actually do things. Oh, okay, great. Anjum said hi. Thank you, Anjum. You're the first one to say hi. Oh no, we have Anjum Hassan, HOD Biology at Delhi Private School. Thank you so much. We have Rasha as well. Rasha, why you're here, 1 word about you, and what kind of takeaways you want to have out of today's webinar. So if you can please, it's a good, I really believe that these kind of webinars, these kind of activities bring together people from different sectors, different backgrounds, and through that kind of community involvement, through the collaborations and discussions, a lot can come out. And throughout the road to net zero, throughout our climate action journey, we really need different people from different backgrounds, and we need to partner with people who are around us. So thank you also Grace from Movenpeak Hotel GPR, Michael from Business Development Manager in Orient. Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate the fact that you have given the time. Kavita from Mercury Hotel as well. So what's COP28? First of all, I think we've been hearing a lot about climate action. What we all need to understand is that the global temperature has been rising due to the Industrial Revolution, and it's on the rise. And now you will be hearing a lot the 1.5 degrees Celsius and why we need to limit the 1.5 degrees Celsius. So I thought it's important to share with you as well. What is it today? What is the temperature today? So today we are at around like a little bit over 1.1, 1.2. So this temperature, if it keeps on increasing, it will bring a lot of devastating catastrophes, and also it's going to change the way we do business as well. So now let's test your COP and climate related information and background. The first question is, what is UNFCCC? Anyone can take the answer on the chat. What is UNFCCC? I'm gonna count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyone knows what's UNFCCC? Okay. So UNFCCC, everyone talks about it. Please tell us exactly how we as residents of UAE can do. Okay, that's good, Anjum. Sure, we'll do that. So UNFCCC is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It was entered into force on 21st March 1994. The ultimate aim of the UNFCCC is to prevent dangerous human interface with the climate system. So because of the increase in climate, in the temperatures, because of the climate issues that we have, the UNFCCC came into the force, and now it is the strongest and most important UN framework that tackles climate change. What is COP? So a lot of you are here because they want to, okay, this Anjum said United Nations Convention on Climate Change. What is COP? Conference of Party, okay, and what do we do? Very good. I can see, mashallah, Anjum has a very good COP background, let's say sustainability background. So COP is actually a conference of parties. You're absolutely right. It's the United Nations Climate Change Summit, or an annual meeting where United Nations member states, they convene to assess the progress in dealing with climate change. The next question is, when was the first COP held? Okay, when was the first, any, you can just count the day, it's annual, it's COP28. So when was the first COP held? Okay, any answers? 28 years back. Okay, that's a good one. So the first COP was held in Berlin, Germany in 1995, and has since been held annually. You're right, this is the 28th COP. So it was held 28 years back, and this COP is going to be in Dubai. What's the number of participating parties or countries in COP usually? Any guess? The number of countries? Berlin, Germany. Yes, you're right, Andrew. Any guess on the number of countries participating in COP? At least a range, 100, 200, 50, 10. Anyone? 196. Yeah. Very close, Rabi. The COP is actually the decision-making body at the COP for the convention, and there are not 197 countries that have ratified the convention and are called parties to the convention, which is the UNFCCC. COPs are key platform. We have 197 as per the latest data. You also, Rabi and Anjum, you're around that number. And COPs are key platforms to facilitate deals, develop policies, and build networks. So I think everyone is kind of now have maybe a better understanding of what COP is and why it's important. Now, COP28 holds a very, very special significance to it. It sits at a very critical juncture when it comes to climate action. Dr. Sultan Ahmed Al-Jaber, the UAE or the COP28 president designate from the UAE Special Envoy for Climate Change and the Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology, shares a bit of his background in the COP and why this COP is critical. So an important thing is that, first of all, in COP21, which is related to the Paris Agreement, the world agreed to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. You remember the temperature we mentioned earlier? So that's the exact temperature. So from today, from COP21 that was held in 2015 to 2023, we have only 7 years to meet that goal, the Paris Agreement goal. So COP28 is a prime opportunity to rethink, reboot, and refocus the climate agenda. So the countries have sat together, yes, Paris Agreement in COP21, and they agreed that they would take actions to limit the global warming temperatures and to also ensure that everyone is actually everyone is not affected by the climate change, and to give accessibility to consider marginalized communities as well into the climate actions. And today we're here to actually assess the progress related to the Paris Agreement. So a lot of people maybe heard some skepticism around COP and why COP has been addressed as talks only. So this year, what we're trying to do here in the UAE, what COP28 is trying to do is to move from talks and agreements and pledges into action. And you will hear a lot, a COP of action. So there's been a lot of commitments, Paris Agreement, other agreements, and then we know that we're behind. So even the UN says that we are behind in actually meeting the deadline, or let's say addressing the climate change in the right way, and the temperatures are expected to increase way beyond 1.5 degrees to reach 2 or even more, and which would be devastating. So in 21 in Paris, COP21 in 2015, it was agreed to reduce carbon emissions by 45% in 2030 from 2010 levels. An important roadmap that was put back then is actually this roadmap. So if you can see this roadmap, today we're at 2023. Okay, it's halfway. So it started 2015, collected data, they discussed the couple of activities that happened, and then the first global stock take is happening in this year, and also 2023 is considered the halfway through. So we're only halfway to 2030, and we've been collecting data. So I'll mention a lot about the global stock take and why it's important. A lot of data has been collected so far just to understand how much we've done and whether we're achieving. So this nice graph shows the progress that was done so far from the time the Paris Agreement was signed. the data. So the Paris Agreement has put an action plan, which is the global for assessing the inventory and for understanding our climate action, whether we're doing enough or not. And they put a 3 stages process. The first one is information collection and preparation. The second stage is the technical assessment. And the third stage is the political phase and consideration of outputs. You will hear a lot about the first global stock take is happening in 23. GST is happening in 23. So the COP28 is really significant because we've already collected this data. It started in COP26 November. The data was assessed. And now it's time to discuss the actions and also to come up with even much more aggressive actions. And that's definitely is going to affect everything. It's going to affect the way we do business. It's going to affect our lifestyle. It's going to affect even how much we are integrating climate action in our daily life and how we can move into a more sustainable lifestyle. Okay, so anyone is ready to actually do or go to COP28 website and see what's happening with GST, how much has been done, how much has not been done. Please drop a message if you're ready and you feel like it's really important. There's things that are important that are happening in this COP28. So COP28 focus areas, just for those who want to understand even more, there are 4 main focus areas on COP28, which is first, fast-tracking energy transition. Second, fixing climate change finance. Third, nature, people, lives, and livelihoods. And fourth, inclusivity. Now, one important thing, as we discussed, is the 1.5 degrees Celsius. And to achieve that, we need to limit the GHG emissions by 43% compared to the 2019 levels. Now, before we move on, I just want to ask you, as organizations or as individuals, if you can also please comment on the. Okay, very good. So Anjum is going. If you can comment on the chat on which area you think is more important to you or to your business. Which of these focus areas? Where to go and do what? Okay, Anjum, I'm going to try. So which areas you feel is more important for you? Or do you think that all of these focus areas hold the same significance? Okay. We don't have much of responses, so I'm going to assume that you already have thought about it and understand which areas are important for you. So let's dig a little bit deeper, people's lives, nature, people. Okay, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Amanda. So let's dig a little bit deeper on what is the expectations and why these what areas will be actually tackled in each of these focus pillars of the COP28. So first of all, fast-tracking energy transition. So energy is one of the highest emission sources, and to actually be able to address the climate issues and to reduce the emissions, we need to move into renewables. We need to move into cleaner energy. So energy, water, climate issues, definitely. So we need, and for that, we need to actually triple renewables. We need to integrate hydrogen, transform food and agriculture systems, and work with the energy industry to accelerate decarbonization. So these are the 4 main elements that will be part of the energy transition pillar of COP28. The second one, fixing climate finance. So climate finance is a big area, and it's one of the main obstacles that are hindering the progress towards climate action, especially for marginalized communities, for communities that do not have enough allocations of climate finance. So what we need under fixing climate finance, 6 areas of focus: creating a comprehensive transformation, working with the World Bank to unlock the power of capital markets, encouraging donors to double adaptation finance, basically for areas that are affected by the climate change, ensure the accessibility as well, and the private capital that's available, help the most, this is one of the important things, help the most vulnerable to rebuild after climate-related disasters. So we've seen floods, we've seen droughts, we've seen people are being displaced just because of climate issues. But because the climate issues were created by some players, they need also to invest into climate or into solutions that will help those who've been affected by the climate disasters. Then next is nature, people, lives, and livelihoods. How much do you think, from 1 to 5, if you can write in the chat, from 1 to 5, how much do you think climate is affecting nature, people, lives, and livelihoods, especially people, lives, and livelihoods. From 1 to 5. 5 is the most significant, and 1 is the least significant. 5, repeat. 5, exactly. So we do have different people are affected by different levels due to the climate issues. But then the most people who are impacted are the vulnerable communities. So we need to protect the rainforest. We need to protect the most vulnerable communities. We need to make sure that the work focus on the natural health and not just only climate reduction or not just only the economic growth, and ensure that the global food system is resilient to the changing weather patterns. Because even if a farm is affected in India, then that kind of effect will actually affect the supply chain, the whole food supply chain, and that whole food supply chain could lead to actually hunger issues, could lead to food quality, health issues, etc. So we're all very well interconnected. So even if one area is more valuable, even if one area has issues due to climate, this is going to come back to us and it would affect us. Okay, the last but least is inclusivity. How do we ensure that our youth are involved and they understand? Honestly speaking, I've been into multiple youth programs, and I can say they're much better than us in understanding climate issues and also taking actions. So now we want to actually protect the youth and involve them, and also protect the world's biodiversity. We need to break down the silos and make sure that we bridge divides that are blocking critical factors in the climate fight. So I think there are big hopes out of this COP28. That's my personal opinion. And also, if you look around, you would see everyone has been talking about scope of actions, enough of bridges, enough of talks, let's do things. A couple of issues also that were carried over from the COP27, which are critical and key issues for this COP to be covered. The GST, which we have already discussed. I hope that you remember what it is. Loss and damage fund, financing, the role of developing of hydrocarbon producers, geographical issues, key technologies, multilateral agreements, the future of carbon markets, the outlook for hard to abate sectors, and the future of the COP processes. So with this, we end the first one, which is the COP overview. So before we go into what the UAE is doing and what has it been doing, let's first hear from you how, in terms of a level of excitement and kind of, desire to go for COP. Where are you right now? From 1 to 10. 5. 1 to 10, not 1 to 5, Jason. 10. Oh, wow. Okay. So let's make sure that you're there and you actually look at the outcomes of this COP and what's happening around it, and be involved. My deep is also 10. My speed is also 10. Okay, very good. So people are ready to actually be part of the event. So let's see what the UAE is doing and what we as businesses need to do. Okay, am I deep registered for Green Zone? Yes, please. Make sure that you attend and you also stay connected with what's happening around. So let's look at the UAE. Now, the UAE has been actually doing, even though it's an oil-producing country, it has been very well utilizing fossil fuel for most of the development and the energy needs of the country. Still, the UAE has been an active member of the global climate engagement. Being in the UAE, being in the Middle East, we have our own challenges. We understand that. The UAE understand that, but we're very actually blessed because we are in a country that understands the global issues and also is ready to be part of it. So the UAE provides $1 billion of renewables to more than 40 countries, including 27 projects in Caribbean and Pacific Islands. The UAE was the first country in the Middle East region to sign the Paris Agreement, which we have mentioned many times, and it is considered one of the most important COP findings or outcomes in the Paris Agreement. And then we have IRENA, which is the International Renewable Energy Agency, opens its headquarters in the UAE in 2015. So the UAE has been very active, and maybe you've heard the news about the UAE also embarking on a net zero strategy and committing to net zero. So before I show you where the UAE stands in terms of the net zero strategy, do you know when the expectations for net zero for the UAE? When is the UAE committed to achieve net zero as a country? 2030, Jason. That would be too difficult. Not yet. Not 2030, no. Anyone else? UAE is actually committing to achieve net zero emissions. 2050, yes, Jason. Yes, Anjum, Samuel. 100%. So if you look at, let's look at other countries. What are the other countries doing? So the UAE, if you see a small country here, this way we might be small, but our impact is big. So the UAE is actually 2050. Now let's look at, so here's the UAE. Let's look at your country, whatever country you're coming from, or depending on your nationality, depending on what country you're connected with. Maybe Samuel, if you can know when Switzerland is actually committing to net zero. Can you write in the chat? Can you write in the chat your country, whatever country you're coming from? 2050 for Switzerland, thank you. Jason is 2070. Which country, Jason? India, 2070. Okay. Anyone would like to share? 2050 UAE, 2060 Verilin. Which country? Verilin, 2070. Okay. So if you are in the UAE, Alnahdi is also 2070. So if you are in the UAE, you understand. Feels difficult to mention. Okay. So if you're in the UAE, you know that the expectations are 2050. If you are a Swiss business, you also have the expectation of 2050. Now, the major part of UAE emissions are coming from energy. So I'm going to be sharing with you mostly the energy transition strategy that's publicly available for the UAE, just to understand how to tackle also your energy emissions. But in general, we are expecting more of announcements and more of a roadmap elements to be declared or to be announced during COP time on how the UAE will look at the overall emissions, not only the energy emissions. So you can see here the roadmap of what's been happening in the UAE energy sector. And as mentioned, like, they have ambitious journey to reach to net zero by 2050. So 2023 was declared as the year of sustainability. That's the beginning of the year. And then we have now in December, we're almost in December, where we're hosting the COP28. The expectation is to achieve net zero by 2050. One interesting also fact about the UAE energy strategy is the launch of the strategy in 2017. So the strategy was launched in 2017, and then it was revised again after the UAE net zero commitment. And the launch of the UAE net zero by 2050 strategic initiative in 2021. So this is just to see where you are positioned in terms of the UAE actually plans and a roadmap for energy. There are three important elements of this energy transition. I'm going to share it with you now. So the first one is the UAE is looking into let's say decarbonizing the grid, meaning today our grid is mostly made of fossil fuel. We have like a lot, around 94% is from fossil fuel, which is natural gas, power turbines, etc. So the UAE is moving towards clean energy, including solar as a major part of clean energy, and then we'll have also renewables coming in, other types of renewables like wind that is being explored, hydrogen, nuclear, clean coal. So there are a couple of things that the UAE has been doing as part of the grid or the power supply. So today, say the energy sector is 0.556 kilogram of CO2 in 2021. But if you look at it, 2030, it's 0.270. So there is already big plans from a utility side, from a government side, to actually slash the energy production related emissions by almost 50% just by improving the grid mix. So cleanest electricity produced compared to the Middle East and Asia, this is where we are, and they want to maintain this rank until 2030. And honestly speaking, 0.27 is quite challenging, but we trust that the UAE will be able to achieve that. How is that going to affect you as a business? How that is going to affect you as a user? That's something that you can also start thinking about, and how you build this kind of grid decarbonization into your decarbonization plans. The second thing is related to renewables. And so they have plans to triple the capacity of renewable energy by 2030. And you can see here, in terms of the energy transition rank, which is how much serious the UAE is and how much measures they're taking to move into a cleaner energy supply, UAE is ranked actually the second in 2023 with a score of 5.31. A third element of the UAE energy transition strategy is energy efficiency, which is something really important and can be tackled very easily, especially when it comes to cost initiatives, cost-related let's say, commercial viability, and it's something accessible by everyone, by individuals at home. It's accessible to businesses and from different types of industries. Is how do you improve your energy efficiency, and how do you reduce the consumption? How do you improve the amount of that you need by demand reduction, by use of efficient equipment, etc. So that's also an important thing that we need to consider as part of the UAE movement towards energy efficiency, as well as your individual movement to energy efficiency. A third element is green mobility, which is basically transport. We understand that you can see that everyone around is using their cars, most of them are the diesel powered or petrol powered cars. So how do we move? We move by actually adopting electric vehicles, and that's part of the UAE green mobility strategy to have 53% share of the cars by 2050, EV and hybrid vehicles. And then in terms of buses, also 60% by 2050 share of hybrid buses. And in terms of the total number of hybrid vehicles, they will come into 2.3 million number of electric vehicles. So if you have fleets as part of your business, or if you're an individual that has multiple cars, so how do you move into green mobility? As I always say, first reduce as much as possible, try to avoid using a car if possible, and then move into a green or electric vehicle car. It's the cheapest and the most clean energy. The cleanest energy is the one that you don't use, okay? And then we have the net zero strategy for buildings. So the UAE has been very active when it comes to buildings decarbonization, retrofitting existing buildings, implementing green building codes, enhancing the implementation of energy efficiency standards for household appliances and equipment, driving penetration of distributed renewable resources, which is basically whatever renewable or solar you have on your roof of the building, and then raising public awareness and increasing efficiency alliance on recycled wastewater and landscape irrigation. So these are the major achievements. We can say that there's a lot of it has been progressing for those who are actually into in the real estate sector or who have buildings. They understand the changes that has been happening in terms of standardization, regularization, and also the decarbonization of the building sector. It's still not that easy to decarbonize, but there's a lot that can be done. So this is in a nutshell the part of the UAE net zero strategy. And so based on these kind of commitments, long-term commitments, what would be the outcome during COP? So from your, let's hear your thoughts. So based on the things that you've seen, what do you expect will happen during COP? In terms of regulations, in terms of announcement, in terms of partnerships, just from the things that I have mentioned. If you can write your inputs in the chat, what do you think would be the main outcomes or commitments that the UAE would make during COP? Based on this long-term strategy, based on what you've been hearing around, what is your expectation as a business or as an individual? Before we go into the actual part of related to the role of business, can you write down in the chat expecting big announcements on how the UAE will meet its targets? Sheena, very good. So what kind of announcements, Sheena? Can you tell us more? What kind of announcements are you expecting? Are you expecting announcements in terms of regulations, in terms of finance, in terms of resource management and sustainability initiatives, in terms of compliance about land and they're protecting in Africa? Okay, offsetting. Someone has mentioned offsetting. Someone has mentioned resource management and sustainability initiatives. ESG recommendations for non-listed companies become stronger. Yes, Jason, I agree 100%. Stick to the sustainability in different aspects. Okay, very good. So what other kind of big announcements you're expecting? Monitoring and tracking carbon footprint reduction. I think this is very important, monitoring and tracking, because if you look at other regions, for example, the European Union, which have a very strict climate policies and regulations, all the companies are required to report on their emissions. And also they have penalties if they exceed those kinds of emissions caps that they have set for them. So the expectations, there's so many expectations in terms of requirements, in terms of also finance. That's an important point that was mentioned. Support clean energy ideas. Yes, definitely. Ban on single-use plastic. It's already been announced. You're absolutely right, Amardeep. It's already been announced that there's already a roadmap for banning the single-use plastic, especially for the bags, the shopping bags, and we're expecting much more common reporting frameworks. I agree with you 100%. I mean, I'm really thankful for the inputs in the chat, because I think it's important to understand what's happening, the context around us and what's happening, and the kind of long-term goals and plans and commitments that the UAE is making, because we all believe that after COP, that kind of commitments will actually be translated into actions, and actions by the government, actions required also from the private sector, and actions required from the individuals. Awareness, absolutely right. Yes, awareness is also important, and education on the climate. Okay, good. So the role of business. Let's first understand, as some of you have mentioned about ESG. So what's happening? Why should businesses care? Now we all been talking about it, but so why should businesses care even about this whole kind of talks around climate change? So you have public attitudes are changing. So 66% believe that they should, CEOs that should take the lead and change rather than waiting for the government. Because as I told you, like I had an event with the youth, and they were talking like they were not allowing companies to just do whatever they like. You know, they mentioned clearly why companies are not taking serious actions for climate. So 66% believe that they should take the lead before waiting. Investors are increasingly focused on sustainability, more than 78%. Regulators are becoming much more aggressive for those who understand about energy usage index as well, caps, fines. So these are things that are expected in terms of regulatory requirements. Employees. So even if you're an organization and you have your employees, the employees are also starting to pressure organizations, and they are shifting into more sustainable organizations rather than the business as usual or the standard organizations. And then, of course, sustainability concerns are actually driving customer buying decisions. So whether we like it or not, we have to actually move into low carbon economy. We have to move into a more serious climate action, and there's multiple factors that will affect us, from investors to regulators to customers' demands to even employees' demands for much more responsible business. So it's really important for businesses to start looking at it. So what can businesses do? So this one important thing that I thought of sharing is this UAE Climate Pledge 2.0. So the UAE had a previous climate pledge. This was revised this year, and we can see through the revision the amount of depth in terms of seriousness and the seriousness level into this pledge. So even for pledges, the country now is actually asking people to do pledges that they're serious about, and they know how to measure it and how to measure their progress. So important things in the UAE climate change pledge is that the newer version has a larger concern about increasing threats of climate change, given the shorter timelines. And also, in terms of a private sector commitments and actions, there's measurement and reporting science-based emissions, developing climate transition plans, contributing in achieving the interim 2030 and 2050 national net zero targets, incorporating climate change mitigation and adaptation in operational models, and recognizing alignment with the global best. So even for a simple pledge, the UAE climate pledge, which is issued by the MOCA Ministry of Climate Change and Environment, it was revised earlier this year just to actually include all the requirements and all of the new changes that are happening around us for climate action. So is this going to come as mandatory requirements? Who knows? Most probably yes. Even though it was a pledge, but we're expecting much more. So what do you do as a business? First and most important thing is that we need to have hope. So we need to be more. Okay, I like the comment of hope. So honestly, no, but don't worry. I mean, we know that the UAE as a government is a very wise government. So even if there will be some new policies or new regulations, definitely it would come after so much research and assessment and understanding of the business impact as well, and the impact on the overall growth and development of the country. In all cases, we're talking about very long terms and short terms. So we're talking about 7 terms, short, near term or short term in 7 years, which is 2030. And then we have a longer term commitment, which is 2050. So you need to develop, as a business, you need to develop a strategy for your climate action. And that should include committing, disclosing, acting, verifying, and advocating. This graph is from the Science Based Initiative, which is one of the most recognized standards out there, and commitment platforms as well, for those who are serious about their net zero transition. And as per the the science-based initiatives, we would need to be to achieve around 42% reduction in your carbon emissions by 2030. Okay, so this is just a graph just to give you an understanding of how this kind of journey should look like, or how kind of targets and plans you should be building right now in your strategy, in your climate action strategy or net zero strategy. Another important thing is once you put the strategy, you need to embark on this net zero journey. It's a journey. It requires organizational transformation. It requires stakeholders engagement, which are very key for achieving net zero. And you can achieve net zero through 4 simple steps. First, you measure your impact, you calculate your carbon footprint, you plan for it, you create action plans and a roadmap on how to achieve net zero. Then you choose project based on your action plan on reducing, implementing various carbon reduction programs and measures and projects. And then for your residual emissions, which is anything that you cannot abate or you cannot reduce, it's hard to abate, then you need to offset and look for carbon offset projects and credits around you. So it's really important to highlight that it's a long-term journey. It requires innovation. It requires integrating climate into your overall strategy, business strategy. And it has to go through plan, do, check, act. And before we move on, let me ask you if any of you is coming from an organization that has already committed to net zero. Yes? No? Anyone is coming from an organization that is committed to net zero, or they have a 2030 clear target about to commit this January? Thank you, Jason. Okay. Good. So this is kind of give you an idea of how to commit to net zero and how to embark on it. You need to align with international standards, the GHG protocol for carbon footprint, ISO 14000, science-based initiative, and then also the carbon disclosures. These are the most important international standards out there related to climate action. Measuring impact is the first step. So if you still don't know how much carbon footprint you are actually, what's your carbon footprint and how much emissions you have, then this becomes really serious because you cannot manage what you don't measure. So first step is to measure it. So calculate your carbon footprint, which is an estimation of the greenhouse gas emissions that your organization emits through its operational activities over a defined period of time. There's so many benefits because carbon is always a measure of efficiency. So if you're able to calculate, if you're able to reduce, then definitely you will bring a lot of benefits from an efficiency point of view. Consider the full scope of engagement opportunity. This is for COP28 in particular. So you can see here COP is hosted in Expo. For those who hasn't yet registered, please register. The green zone is open for public and it's a 12 days program. So you would have a theme that would be resonating with you, definitely. So let's pledge, at least for now, let's pledge on going at least for COP28 and participating in the discussions, understanding climate change better to see how you can move ahead. Anjum, we will actually have, if you can write your questions, Piyush is here, he's going to take down all the questions and we'll leave the last 5 minutes. I'm just going to be wrapping up in the next 5 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to share with you also some of the initiatives that are done around us by companies we know in the UAE. So for example, ADNOC, they plan to achieve net zero by 2045, which is a very ambitious target for an oil and gas producer through decarbonizing operations, growing low carbon solutions, leveraging technology and investing in natural-based solutions. ADNOC has recently opened H2GO, which is the region's first high-speed hydrogen pilot station. ADNOC also planted 2.5 million mangroves in 2023 via drone technology, and they're planning for 10 million by 2030. Another important initiative by Dar and Muka, which is related to buildings specifically, they launched a real estate climate pledge earlier this year. So we can see the movements around us, and we understand that even if it doesn't come from the governments, even a lot of the private sector leading companies around us will be actually dictating those requirements as part of their value chain as well. Okay. So what we've done for Farnek, I'm just going to share with you our story in a 5 minutes timeline, just for you to see also where we stand. I know that most of you must probably know who Farnek is and what we're doing. I'm sharing this. We know it's a journey. We keep on improving. We keep on developing. We keep on working on our numbers, reassessing our progress, and also trying to come up with new solutions to our challenges. And I always say, net zero. Climate transition or net zero actions, net zero journey, it's a unique journey for each company. So you will need to actually drive it within your organization, or you will need to be part of it, but it's going to be unique. You cannot copy anyone else's. Yes, we learn from each other, we learn from the best practices around us, but we cannot copy from each other. So what we've done, we've developed Carbon Tech, which is our carbon footprint calculator and also carbon management tool, where we're calculating our emissions. This is just shows you an example of our emissions from last year, Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3, and different also areas of emission sources, for example, refrigerants, purchased electricity, fuel consumption for mobility, business travel, employee waste, etc. These are some of our emissions sources. We also created a net zero plan, and now we have recently actually signed the commitment letter for SBTI, and we are revising even our plan to achieve SBTI requirements. We have implemented a couple of reduction measures for carbon, for example, road transport, electricity as well, waste, and on stakeholder engagement. So some of the initiatives that we've taken is, for example, for road transport, we've been trying to optimize fuel efficiency using our fleet management system by reducing the carbon emissions associated with every kilometer of transport. We've also been trying to use alternative fuels, biofuel, electric cars for some of our fleets, and we're now signing the Road 2.0 initiative with the UACA, which is the UAE Alliance. You will hear the news soon, inshallah, during COP. We've also been managing our electricity consumption, retrofitting some of our buildings, and utilizing IoT and AI to actually improve the overall energy performance of our buildings. The same thing for waste. We've been using our waste monitoring tools, composting, and recycling. We've been trying to actually integrate circular economy concepts. So one of them is composting food in our farms, which is used for fertilizers and plantation, and also for our supplier award initiative, which we've been actually launching. We've launched 2 years ago, and where we're engaging with our suppliers to understand their commitments and also to help them in moving into a low carbon economy. And last but not least, we are launching our new subsidiary, Emirates Carbon. It's one of the Farnek Group companies that would be a partner that stands by our clients and support them in their net zero journey through the journey of measuring via carbon management, planning their decarbonization strategies, implementing various decarbonization solutions, and also support in the carbon offsets, and also moving into carbon neutrality and to net zero. So that's it for me. Thank you so much. And now we'll leave it to questions. So I'll leave it to Piyush.
Thank you so much, Ms. Muna. This was such an informative session. I'm really thankful that we could get this right before, I think it starts today, the COP28, if I'm not wrong, it starts today, right? COP28, so yeah.
Yes, the 30th.
The 30th, okay, so 2 days before we start the COP, we got a brilliant guide from you. We'll go to the questions. There's a question from Anjum. Ma'am, please highlight what is the January commitment?
Sorry, Anjum, can you please elaborate more on the January?
You can, Anjum, if you want, you
can unmute
unmute
yourself and
yourself.
ask the question.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
First,
Ma'am, you just...
thank you for being active, Anjum. You said
yes, ma'am,
I know everyone is busy. We've actually been expecting much more people because we had more than 80 registries, but
yeah, this was my free period lunch break, tiffin break. So I was fortunate enough to attend this webinar. Ma'am, you just mentioned about like something on top where like this one, about to commit this January, some Jason Clement, he mentioned. So I'm not aware of what is this January commitment. And one more question before I end. Like you have been talking about your activities and engagements, and I've heard of Farnek. I have attended your something event or webinar I have attended. So how do you benefit the schools? How can schools get engaged, and what are your different initiatives for schools? So we would really need your guidance.
Okay, very good. So thank you so much, Anjum. Now, in terms of January commitment, I think someone had mentioned in the chat that they are committing to net zero in January this year. So for us, we have already committed. We've already been working towards it. But I think in the chat, someone mentioned about them being committing on January. So that's why I think I mentioned the January thing. This is on one side. On a second side is your commitment to net zero is something that you decide for sure. In terms of the schools, if we look at the schools now, there was a recent initiative launched by the UAE Ministry of Education in partnership, I think, with the UN, where they committed to convert or let's say help 50% of the schools to become net zero. So I'm not sure how much of it has been already developed, but if we look at the school as any other business, then we need to actually first calculate your carbon footprint, understand where your emissions are coming from, especially with regards to net zero. So we know that, for example, for schools, transportation, fuel transportation would be key because of your buses, because of the commute of your students to the school. We know that from your building, you're using electricity. So that would be also another emission source. We know, for example, that would be generating waste, involving your students, involving your staff, involving your suppliers are key decarbonization measures. So what we usually do, if I can just take you back here, what we usually do, this is the steps approach that we take. So the first thing would be is to calculate your carbon footprint, then understand your emission sources, understand your targets, sit together targets and decarbonization strategies in terms of in alliance with the SBTI and the pathways with different international standards, and then also help you in implementing. For example, if your buildings consume high energy, then we'll need to actually go and retrofit the school building with the energy efficiency measures to reduce the energy consumption and thus to reduce your carbon footprint related to energy. Similarly, for example, if you don't have solar, we can help you in integrating or adopting renewables into it. If you don't have any system where you're tracking your waste or you're tracking the data in terms of data collection and understanding your different waste and carbon emission sources, then we can help you also in integrating technologies and management tools that help you in understanding and tracking your carbon footprint. So it is kind of, it's a big journey. It's a long journey. I would be happy to sit with you after this. If you can just drop me an email, maybe if we can go Piyush to my contact as well. You can drop me an email or drop Piyush an email. I'll be more than happy to have a one-to-one meeting just as an exploration of where you stand and how to take it further. I like your commitment. I like your energy. I like how much you're ready to actually embark into it. So we'll be more than happy to partner with you and help you in achieving your carbon net zero and carbon reduction goals, hopefully.
Ma'am, we have a question from Rivi. What are your challenges faced or advice on tackling scope 3 emission? Okay.
I like the fact that you have mentioned scope 3 because it's a challenge for the whole industry. For those who don't understand the different scopes, when it comes to emission sources, they are categorized in 3 types. The first one is direct emissions, scope 1. The second one is indirect emissions from electricity use or from energy use. And the third, scope 3, is everything related to your value chain. So basically materials you're buying, waste you're treating, products you're buying as well, third-party service providers you're utilizing, everything like upstream, downstream transportation as well, your product manufacturing if you are into product or service. So it's a big emission challenge to actually find the right data, understand your value chain properly, map out the data sources and the carbon footprint associated with it. So it is a challenge because also different companies are at different levels in their climate journey. So you might be actually reaching out to your suppliers, but they don't know their emissions. So a lot of estimations happen at the initial stages. As the market evolves and as the standardization happens for all the data collection and the carbon footprinting, we hope that this challenge will be reduced. I always say pick the five top emission sources for each COP3 and try to kind of improve your quality of data. For example, waste, even though it's treated outside of your facility, but you have the data. Fuel from, for example, service providers, third-party service providers. Most of the time, you can get the data and you can even initiate different activities that will help in reducing the carbon footprint of those service providers, because at the end, you're their clients, you can drive that change. So pick the top 5 where you have clarity on and work in decarbonizing. Focus on your scope 1 and 2. Focus on improving the quality of your scope 3 emissions. Identify the elements that can be tackled even at the early stages, and then it's a journey. As the market evolves, as your experience evolves, as your suppliers and your value chain comes into more of a alignment with your requirements as well, then you can improve in your scope 3. So do not let it discourage you. Try to actually take it as an opportunity to even find more innovations, to work with your value chain and your partners to look at it holistically rather than just from the normal standard business as usual operations. Okay.
Jason has a question. Does Farnek help with GHG calculations for corporates with no record of energy use?
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely we can help, yes.
Yeah, you can get in touch with me. My name is Piyush. I will drop in my details here. Please get in touch with me. I will be able to take you through that process.
So Piyush will actually be sharing his details in the chat. So if anyone would like to know more, we can actually sit together and have one-to-one for those who are interested on learning more or taking this further. I would be there as well in COP28. So please follow me as well in LinkedIn. I'll try to share when I'll be there. I'll be more than happy to meet you. So I'll be in the Blue Zone on December 2nd, and then multiple panels and on the other days in the green zone. So I'll be more than happy to share with you also the details on LinkedIn, or if you connect with me, I'll tell you where I'll be there, and we can actually meet and let's build that community. So we need that kind of community for moving into a low carbon or green economy. And we need each other's support in a way or another. So most probably we are your scope 3 emissions. You might be our scope 3 emissions. So we need to sit together and discuss
Ma'am, there is a message from Anjum. We would like to know that track our carbon emissions, and could you guys just, I told her that she can get in touch with me. I will help her drive the change for their organization. She works in a school which is with 7,000 students and 500 staff. There's a big potential for them to, yes, Anjum, you have a very big potential to drive change, be a sustainability leader in the industry. Now is the mark you set yourself as apart from your competitors as a business, that you find sustainable. It's something which, especially with a school like that, that definitely should impact a lot of the image in that of a school if it's more sustainable and net zero. And kids get to learn a lot in the process as well. It's a very educational journey to everybody who's in part of it, who's watching it, who's contributing even as a stakeholder. It's everybody's getting educated in this journey. Anyways, I'll also be in COP28. You will see me around Green Zone. I'll be there multiple days, not decided when, but yeah, I hope to see you guys there, and I hope we can drive change together. Thank you so much, Ms. Muna. Thank you so much, Mr. Samuel. And thank you everyone for taking time and being with us. I hope we connect again for the next webinar. I want to see all of you guys come for the next webinar as well. We'll keep doing that, and we'll keep driving the change. We'll keep being more sustainable as we go ahead. Thank you so much. And I'm Piyush from Farnek signing off. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, really a pleasure. And without you, we could not have made this successful. So thank you for sparing the time and being with us. Looking forward to taking this further.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Munas. Thank you,
Samuel.
Piyush.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.